Good morning, everybody. Slightly earlier today, joined, as you can see, by some special guests, President of the IOC, Kirsty Coventry, and again, Christophe Duby, Olympic Games Executive Director. Thank you very much. It says on my piece of paper we've reached halfway, but it doesn't quite feel like halfway, but going very well. So we thought it was a good time to kind of pause and reflect a little bit about the Games and see how we're doing. So a couple of quick figures for you just to show how well it is going. NBC network tell us that they are averaging nearly 26 million viewers, which doubles Beijing 2022, and Olympic social media handles 7.4 billion engagements. So that is, yeah, they're not uniques, but they're you don't have to do very much maths to work out that's a lot of people. So, so far successful outside and successful inside, successful here too. So without further ado, let me pass to the President to make some remarks, and we'll take questions here and in the mountains as ever. Please sort out your headphones first, because there may be some translation questions. So, Kirsty.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning to all of you. Nice to see you here. The games are going really well. We're getting to go and watch some sport, which I'm really excited about. We're getting to see the Italian team do incredibly well. 17 medals altogether and 6 gold. I've been very fortunate to have gotten to witness Federica and Adriana's golds, which were just incredible. And their stories of resilience and fight and everything good in humanity was really showcased. You know, both athletes I have so much respect for, and if I'm correct, I believe Adriana is now the most decorated Italian athlete, summer or winter Olympian, and to do that at home, frippin' is so cool. I'm so excited for her. And you could feel in the stadium yesterday and last night just the passion and the love and the respect that she has for her sport and for her fellow competitors. It was really an incredible moment to be there. As Mark mentioned, we've got really very cool figures coming around, and what's been amazing from all the venues that we visited, and yesterday we were up in the mountains, getting to see the spectators and families playing in the snow, enjoying being and feeling the Olympic spirit. That was really, really very special. And again, the interactions and the highlights that we're seeing on the athletic performances. Obviously, we've had some athletes that sadly have been injured. And Lindsay, you know that you're one of my big inspirations, and we're thinking of you in your recovery. But as we said, you're an Olympian and an Olympic champion, and you will always be that. But we've also had Japan's first Olympic men's snowboard big air gold medal from a 21-year-old. How amazing is that? Switzerland's 24-year-old claiming the alpine skiing gold. First time for them since Jean-Claude Killy in 1968. So really incredible moments. And I have to also thank all of you for spreading those moments and for sharing those moments. It's an inspiration, and we're very excited for the Games to continue and to continue seeing wonderful, exhilarating performances in all of the venues.
Thank you very much, President. Okay, we're happy to take your questions now. Let's start with Wakako down here in the front. Yeah. Just here, yeah.
President, good to see you again. Wakako Yuki from Yomiuri Shimbun. Regarding this Ukrainian athletes issue, what was your feeling when you were face-to-face talking to him, and how you understood what he was trying to do? And also, during the opening ceremony, you've talked to the world and the athletes that this is the showcase of humanity. This is how we would show what unites us. This was the theme of the Olympic Games, and yet, of course, the rules you help form of this athlete expression was to make sure that these kind of, celebration is possible, I understand. But at the same time, probably we are facing and realizing how difficult it is in the face of reality, real war, and real human emotion. Could you comment on that?
Of course, I'd be happy to. As you know, so I was chairing the Athletes Commission in 2020 and 2021 when we heard from athletes that it was really important for us to identify safe spaces for them to express themselves and to be able to share messages with the world of all kinds, right? To be able to advocate, to be able to share different messages of whatever they felt was important to them. At the same time, athletes wanted to ensure that we could still provide safe spaces for them, and they took recognition that if we just opened things up completely, they would potentially be asked by parties outside of the sporting family to carry messages that they did not agree with. And how would we be able to help protect them from doing that? The fairest way that we went to the athlete community to ask for them to help us carve out these areas was to be able to find and identify areas that they felt and we felt were areas where we could protect the safe spaces for athletes to be athletes, for athletes to focus on just their races, right? To just compete, to do what they've trained to do what they have sacrificed to compete. And then we carved out spaces where athletes can be the ambassadors and the role models that we all know they are, where they can share their messages. And this is why we have the rules that we do. This is why we have the guidelines that we have, is to ensure that those spaces are very clear, but that they also have spaces where they can freely express themselves and the messages that they want to share with the world. And I believe we've been able to do that. My conversation with Vladislav and his dad, Michael, yesterday was a very good conversation, a very respectful conversation. And, you know, it was a time really for me and him to speak as athletes. And that was really important for me, I think for him. And I shared with him yesterday, again, how the process went about. And for me, I felt that I was the best person to do that because I was leading the athlete community. So I could share both sides, right? Where athletes wanted to have space, but also where they want to be protected. And I think that he, in some ways, understood that, but was very committed to his beliefs, which I can respect, right? But sadly, it doesn't change the rules. And the rules were that for certain spaces, the field of play, the ceremonies, the Olympic Village should be spaces where athletes are safe from both sides, and where there is just no messaging of any kind, so that it's fair and so athletes can just focus on competition. We ended up where we ended up, and again, I can only, like I said to Vladislav yesterday, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. You know, it was appreciated.
Okay, another question. Yeah, okay, let's go along here. So we'll start with Tarek.
Hi, Kirsty. Can you give a bit more colour on the actual the meeting, because you came out of it quite emotional. And speaking yesterday, it seemed Vlad had said it was towards the end of the meeting when he brought up what he believes were Russian violations that were continuing at these games that were unsanctioned, and yet he is the guy to leave. He mentioned flags in the stands. He brought that up to you, and some other issues. And he also said, you know, you said just now you just said the podium and field of play, etc., including the podium, shouldn't be used for anything like that. But then he brought up, you know, the tragic case of the figure skater whose parents had died, and I think there was an Israeli athlete as well who wore a kippah, remembering the victims of Munich. Are they, you know, when you spoke to him, when he raised those points with you, can you tell us what your point of difference is with those and what he was trying to do? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So he never brought up flags in the stands, as far as my memory serves correctly. He had mentioned a flag which was on the back of a helmet of an athlete who has competed in 6 different games. I can ask the team if we have anything on that, but for me, I didn't necessarily see a violation in that, because he is an athlete not from Russian descent that had all of the small little flags of every games he's competed in. But I believe the team are looking into that, so we can come back to you. On the other 2 athletes that he mentioned, with the figure skater, it was when the figure skater had finished on the field of play. He came off the field of play after competition into the kiss and tell zone, and he brought out a picture of his parents. That's allowed. So for me, and I shared that with him, that is what the conversation was about. I, again, offered him that same thing, we can do that. That's allowed. You're allowed to take your helmet into the press conferences. We could have your helmet waiting as soon as you were finished your run. So those were all explained. On the Israeli athlete, the team, I shared with those things the concerns. I was not aware of that, and the team is reviewing it now. So that we'd have to come back to you with more information, or if Mark has any, but I don't have any updated information on that.
I mean, I can give you fuller information.
The emotion. You know, for me, as I said, I was really grateful for the opportunity to sit down and speak with him, right? And I don't think it's ever really been a question around his messaging. It was where the message was happening. And, you know, the emotions coming out, he's an athlete. I wanted to see him compete, right? And sadly, we weren't able to get that to happen. And the rules are the rules, and I believe in the rules, and I believe that the rules allow for there to be the safest and fairest way right now that we have to allow for athletes to express themselves, but also to keep athletes safe. And you all know the world that we're living in. Athletes have shared with us they don't want to be put in a position where they can be used for things that they don't agree with, right? And this is why we have these rules in place, is to try to find a balance. And yeah.
Just very briefly, I won't go into the full details now, but yes, we look at all these cases when they come into us, when they're reported. So the case of the helmet with the Russian flag on, which was tiny, the competitor, the athlete, had flags from all the countries he'd competed in. It was he hadn't even thought about it, so it's kind of, but it has been looked into. And then the kippur, the opening ceremony, as I understand it, was underneath a beanie, so it wasn't even visible to the world. But we do look at all these cases. Most of the time, there's no action necessary. Sometimes there'll be a word with the NOC, and other times a little bit more action is taken. But rest assured, this isn't the only case. There are, as with Paris, a whole range of cases that we always take very seriously. Okay, I think lady there, no, she's okay. Are you okay, or you want a question? Yeah, just here, behind you.
I'm going to change focus just for a second. You were yesterday up in Cortina, and I
Yes.
would like some observations about how you see the spread out model working. Do you feel that there is the focal point necessary? Obviously on TV, we're seeing the numbers there, but in person, are people getting the same experience as they might have gotten? Also the athletes not being able to see each other's sports the way you might do in another games, and how you see this going forward for future games.
Yeah.
And can you also tell us how you got up there? Because it's quite a hop, skip, and a jump to Cortina.
I did. I got up there in a car with the rest of my team. So, yep, it wasn't the most comfortable, right? But it was fine. No, so the spread out games, we're learning so much, right? And I think there's going to be so much data that we're going to be able to bring in and understand. It comes with its different complexities. But so far, the feedback that we're getting has been very positive in the experience for the stakeholders. So for our athletes, that was one of, made my heart very happy yesterday, is to see the athletes and how they are really loving the venues, because they're in iconic venues, and the fields of play are fields of play that they've raced on before, that are extremely good. The way in which the organizing committee have been trying to ensure that the experience for the athletes is the same everywhere. So whether they're in a hotel or in the village, we have tried to have all of our Athlete 365 programs. We're trying to make sure everything, and I think you guys got to see that during the opening ceremony, which we experimented, and is one of my highlights, being able to get feedback from athletes up in the mountains that have been in the games numerous times, and this was the first time they were able to be a part of it. So cool, they're loving that. The fans, as I said, in the mountains it was so cool. It was so cool to see so many families and little kids. You know, we were at some of the venues and they were sliding down the hills and the parents are trying to run after them. You can see that really the spirit of the games. Everyone, again, we walked through some of the spectators and there were just smiles and there was a great energy. So yes, it's a little spread out, but the feeling of the games for me are really very magical. Every venue that we're going to, all of the volunteers are doing an amazing job. The welcome and to be able to get to see people interacting, incredible. Really no complaints. And Christoph, I don't know if you have anything to add from some of the stakeholders that you've been talking with, but really good feedback. Yes, a long distance, but you know, I think it makes it worth it when you can get to a venue. And yesterday we were very lucky. The sun came out, the mountains were beautiful. It's the first time I had been in Italy's beautiful region. And yeah, again, athletes are happy and the venues are really pulling in that spectator viewership. Anything to add?
TV standpoint, because you know
I
what?
know the TV standpoint,
you know what,
we have to be
President?
honest, but it's been great.
I've not been in a venue yet, or just a few minutes, but what I've done is watch on TV, and credit to the incredible images Yannis sitting in front here. And what I've heard are many comments from journalists and from athletes being interviewed, exactly the same comments. And we always said it would be a marker of success for these games. If the athletes say, we are happy with this spread games, then who are we to say different? The only one, and I must say, it is a Swiss. I'm a Swiss, so I follow the Swiss press. We had one athlete saying, well, in Bormio, you know, we are just among ourselves because we are all the year long, the circuit together. And here, if you want to be with the other athletes, you have to go through the Foscagno Pass. Okay, it's an hour. Going to do that tonight, by the way. Livigno and then Bormio. That's the only thing I've heard so far. But all in all, when the athletes are saying we love the fact that it is also very warm and cozy in all the locations, then I think we are on good track.
Okay, there's a gentleman right in the front here. You still want a question? Yeah, just here. And then we're moving back, and then we'll come over. I'll try and catch everyone if we can.
Thanks, yeah. Guy Jackson from AFP for Kirsty and for Mark. Sorry, going back to Haraskevich, I know you can't talk about the workings of CAS, the Court for Arbitration for Sport. There's a hearing begun now, I believe. But just if they were to rule the disqualification void, is there any way in which he could compete today? Could a special qualification round be put on for him? I mean, how could that happen?
I think I might.
And also, sorry, just for Kirsty, sorry, how would you feel if that judgment were and he were allowed in some way to compete?
Without kind of short-circuiting, but I maybe save the President this one, I think speculation on the outcome of a court case at this stage is not very helpful. We will do whatever we can, whatever the result is, but I think we'd better wait for that result. I don't know if you want to add anything, President, but
I think it's exactly right. I think we have to wait, right? That's why there's processes in place for things to move forward. And again, I don't think it helps to assume anything or to speculate. So we just have to be patient and wait to see what the outcome is.
I think it will come pretty quickly. Okay, there was a lady there, and then we're going to go back to FRZ, and then Carlos, and then we'll come down here. Yeah. So lady, just... Where are we going?
Giselle Davagnoni from Reuters. I've noticed that the Esselunga supermarket here is cash-free. So I'm wondering whether that's legal, and if it's legal, on the basis of which regulations, given that Italy, as far as I know, admits the cash payments.
I mean, I don't know whether the President is an expert on cash payments in Italy, but we can certainly get you an answer. We have people who can give you a specific answer on that. But it's quite a technical question for someone who's concentrating on the games, but we will get you an answer today. Okay? Yeah, gentleman, colleague from the FRZ there, yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Christoph Becker, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. I've got two questions. One is for Mark. When you say we are looking at these cases, such as the Israeli keeper, who is we in those instances? Is it different organizations, or who's doing that? But first, the question for Ms. Coventry. Vladislav Heraskiewicz had a press conference, as you'll be aware, last night. I talked to him afterwards and asked him, looking back at his appearance at the Beijing Games and his sign, "No War in Ukraine," and you know how he feels looking back 4 years, coming here now, having all of this. And the reply he gave is, well, it's not so much about those 4 years. This all started 2014 in Sochi, and it started at the last day of the games. That's when the war in Ukraine started. That's when the annexation of Crimea started. That's when the war in Donbass started. And from his perspective, is what he said, the whole world that came to Sochi and the IOC that gave the games to Vladimir Putin have a skin in the propaganda machine and skin in that war. And he compared it to 1936 and the Nazi Olympics. Do you acknowledge that? Do you acknowledge that the IOC has been used for propaganda purposes that led to the war in Ukraine? I can also ask, do you acknowledge that the IOC handed the Nazis the games in 36, and that was abused by the Germans? But that's going back a very long way. Anyway, do you acknowledge the IOC is giving dictators a propaganda machine that they use in the worst cases to wage war against neighboring states in the world? Thank you.
No.
Thank you very much. And just to answer you, on cases with, we have what's called a sounding board, so all the main kind of key directors and stakeholders. Very often, as I said, these are cases which immediately we look at them, people look at them, and there's no issue. Clearly, also, if there's a legal issue, it can be raised with the legal authorities, can be raised with CAS. But in the first case, most of the time, it's a question of having a quiet word with the NOC, with the athlete. It's a one-off, and it doesn't happen again. If there's a real issue, it can always become a legal issue if it needs to be. But yeah, and I'm being reminded reminded also that athletes can...
Athletes can also apply beforehand. So they can write to us and ask if they can wear something or display something. So there's an entire process where they can say...
I believe so. I don't. Actually, on that one, yes, I'm getting a nod from someone that yes, he did. But we had, for example, as I said in a previous press conference, we had someone wearing a black armband. They applied, and we said yes, and we make exceptions. And very often, it's normally ones with texts that cause the more problem we don't allow, but certain kind of other one words and so on are allowed, but it depends. There's a kind of a whole standing board. But yes, athletes can apply for an exemption, and we do allow it as long as we feel it won't disrupt the field of play. So as with all rules, there has to be some give and take, and we try to make it work for all the athletes. Yeah, let's go to Carlos from Reuters.
Carlos Groman from Reuters. Madam President, you've launched reviews of many aspects of the games early in your presidency. Do you feel that there is a need to also review these guidelines going to LA, given the change in social media, the rise of the use of that, people expressing opinions more frequently and more often than they did 20 years ago or even 7 years ago when the review started? Is that part of the wider review that you want to have looking at aspects of the games? Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. So this would fall also within the working group that is looking at our fundamental principles of Olympism. I had a number of, as you can imagine, a number of conversations with athletes over the last couple of days. And for them, they still feel very strongly that we should be able to keep certain parts of the Olympic movement and their Olympic experience safe for them. So if athletes would like for us to look at it, it's always, we're open to everything, right? I think, as I've said before on all the other topics, whether it's the Olympic program, whether it's something else, if people feel that we are not doing something adequately, then we will open that discussion up. But the rules are the rules as they stand today, and I believe it's a very good rule because it does what it is intended to do. It allows for athletes to express themselves in a safe way, and it also keeps them safe from being used. So again, from the athlete conversations I've had over the last couple of days, they very strongly believe in the guidelines, and they believe that they are very relevant, and probably even more so relevant in today's world, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we're going to move over to this side now. Come back here. Gentlemen. Yes, lady just here, and then we'll come over to some people on this side. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Justine. I come from Polish television. Polish television. Polish television. Easy question. The games always create some incredible stories. I'm talking about the athletes. Do you have, so far, one of them who you admire? I mean, you admire all of them.
Yeah.
But maybe you've got someone
you
admire much more. For example, I'm sorry for my English.
No, it's absolutely fine. Thank you. So I mentioned 2 athletes a little bit earlier with Federica Bargnani. Watching her win her medal on the first day, incredible. For me, it was even more powerful when she ran over and picked up her child. That, for me, was like, oh, that's so cool. So there's a number across. I'm going to get teary, but I'm going to try not to. Athletes are incredible, right? For me, it's the athletes that are, pushing boundaries. A year ago, she wasn't even skiing. She was lying in a hospital bed. Like, if that doesn't talk about resilience or grit or, getting back up and getting knocked down and everyone around you telling you you're not going to get to the games, then I don't know, a stronger message, right? even though Lindsey Vohn's games didn't end the way she had hoped, the message that she put out from the hospital bed of just like, hey, I put everything on the line. How amazing, how inspirational, right? So you've got a case of an athlete reaching the pinnacle of their career in the most idyllic way, at home, on the field of play, with their entire family and the Italian people around them. And then an athlete whose games didn't go well, but still is inspiring the world. I mean, yeah, so many athletes, I think, are doing incredible things in these games, and we need to give them their moment because they've gone through a lot of hard work and sacrifice to get here.
And also, at this Olympic Games, there is one country which is for the first time here, Benin. Incredible, amazing.
Yes. We have a number of countries that are competing for the first time, and with Winter Games, Summer Games, it's always amazing to see how many more countries are taking part in sports that we didn't really, you don't think of Benin and winter sports, but there's so many more opportunities in our world today for athletes to be able to go and to train and to learn new things, and this is what sport also allows to happen, right? I had an incredible opportunity to get a scholarship and go over to the United States and have an incredible experience and walk away with a college degree and, things that I potentially never thought I would do. So this is all the ripple effect of sport and the Olympic movement, and they're incredible stories that we should be very proud of.
So let's pretend.
I think we're going to move on. Thank you.
Gentlemen, just here wants the question, and we'll come down. No, at the back there, and then we'll come to Sports Illustrated as well. We'll come down. Doing our best.
Robert Kemper, German TV ARD. A question to Ms. Coventry. Can you please clarify yesterday when you meet with Mr. Herskiewicz, how long does the meeting took, and when was the decision made by time, please, to disqualify Mr. Herskiewicz from these games, and who stripped him away his accreditation in the first place? And can you please clarify why you decide to request personnel, how it was stated in your media press release, to give him the accreditation back, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will try to do my best on this. I think you said how long was the meeting? So I think the meeting, I wasn't really looking at my watch. It was maybe 20 minutes, I think. After our conversation, the federation, and I believe it was the president jury of their jury, told him that he would not be racing. I can't give you timings on that.
There was actually a press statement, so we have the facts on that. And if that's not clear, then we're happy to make it clear of the stages.
Yeah, I don't want to give you wrong facts, so that's probably better. But I don't, on the timing, I can only speak for the interview, and then on the subsequent timing, I think, as Mark said, that's a better one. And then the third question, you had so for me, again, as I have stated many times, sitting down with Vladislav and his dad, the conversation was extremely respectful. And I then, after that, asked the disciplinary commission to relook at not pulling his accreditation. Again, on the timing of that, we can give that to you in a specific timeline. I'm sorry, yesterday was a bit of so I want to give you the right facts. But out of respect for him and for his dad and for taking the time to come and sit down with me, I thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think most of the details are in the press release, but anything you need, we can give you. Yeah, let's go to Sports Illustrated here, and then we'll come to Shia.
Hello, everyone. I wanted more clarification as well on the credential and it being reinstated, because I want to ask the line of thought in the sense that if the rules must be respected, which seems to be an understandable one and an objective one, does an initiative that may appear to others as potentially arbitrary to give him his credential back after being disqualified, does that potentially undermine the line of thought that we must respect the rules?
No, because one's not linked to the other. So being disqualified from an event, and that is a decision that is taken by the federation, not by ourselves. We are in control of the accreditations. So for me, they're not, if you're disqualified, you're automatically, the accreditation is pulled. It's two very different things, so.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Hello, this is Takahumi Yoshida from Kyodo News. You were saying the sports is center part of the Olympic movement usually, and but on the other hand, like Heraskevich choosing paying tributing Ukrainian pharaohs more than competing in the Olympics. How do you see this like complexity for that?
So again, the messaging that he was wanting to carry and that he displayed in training and the days before, was not up for question. It was just the place, right? And the field of play within our rules and regulations is a safe and neutral space.
Okay, I think that's quite clear. Yep, gentleman here, our French colleague at the, yep. Yeah.
Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club. Je vais poser ma question en français. Enfin, j'en ai juste deux. Par rapport à l'athlète ukrainien et ce problème, j'ai compris lors d'une autre un point presse que la commission exécutive pourrait peut-être revoir certaines règles. Est-ce que vous le confirmez ? Et puis par ailleurs, j'entendais la question sur le Bénin et je me posais les questions sur les sports additionnels. Une discipline comme le cross-country pourrait faire entrer beaucoup d'athlètes africains. Est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui vous intéresserait en tant que présidente? Merci.
Thank you. So on the first one on additional sports, I'm not standing here representing one continent. I'm representing all continents, and the decisions that we will take in the review will be best for the movement. I am very much a believer, as you know, that it's not for doing something for one individual, but the good for all. So the sports are in, everything is on the table, everything is up for discussion, and it's being worked through with the Olympic Program Working Group. The executive board will never we may have the authority, and I look to my team because I don't have the charter in front of me. We would potentially be able to look and review any rules and regulations, but it would always be taken to the session. And as my way of working as well is that would be done in consultation with all stakeholders. So there are no rules or regulations that, since these games have started, the executive board at any point has sat down to look at or to review. That's not how our processes work, if I understood the question clearly.
Okay, we're going to go for just a few more questions because you won't believe how tight the schedule is for the President. Let's take one from the mountains and then we'll take... then we'll take Graham, I guess. Yeah, try and see what time's like, but I think we need to move on.
Yeah, good morning. This is from Oscar Garcia at The Athletic, and he asks something that you touched upon, Mark. You said review cases come to you as stakeholders, raise them. Have broadcasters or governments complained about the helmet? And as a follow-up to that, what have broadcast rights holders and sponsors directly told the IOC about this matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think on that we have Yanis and we have a few people later. No, not today, but we have you to come back, I think, on the 18th, so we can discuss that then. I think that's quite a detailed probably a too detailed question and not one that you'd know about whether someone had actually complained or not complained from. We haven't heard anything, so it's probably better to.
Yanis has not heard anything.
And Yanis hasn't either, but we can discuss all that in a future press conference. Let's go for Graham. I'm going to do two. I'm going to do you, Graham, and then gentleman at the back was waving at me very. Sorry, I can't do everyone, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thanks, Kirsty, for being so available today. Just a bigger picture question about the job. I mean, another Olympics where the first week has been dominated by an issue that you could argue maybe the IOC could have anticipated better, but you've got you know, the next Summer Games host where a senior official's under scrutiny for not leaving, and a domestic political situation that's volatile to say the least. A next Winter Games host where officials are leaving or have left, and uncertainty with a big political election next year. No new top sponsors coming in for this Games, and a big revenue stream from Saudi Arabia that fell through. And back home in Lausanne, whistleblower reports of a work culture at headquarters that's not ideal. You know, a job that, let's not forget, pays about less than 10% of what FIFA pays its president. It's not an easy job, is it?
It's a job only a woman could do, Graham. It's a job only a woman could do, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do it.
And typically a man was interrupting you when you were answering, so I do apologise. Okay, gentleman, right at the back there with the black who's been waving at me for a long time. Yeah, there. And then I'm afraid, with apologies, that's the last question.
Ms. Coventry, Rebecca Passler, the Italian biathlon who got an anti-doping rule violation, is able to start at the Milano Cortina Games. That's the ruling of Italian NATO appeal court. Can you comment on that?
I'm so sorry, I'm not aware or briefed on the case, but we can come back to you with that. On that I would need to get some better information.
We will give you an official IOC line on that when we have one, but I don't have one.
Okay, thank you.
Let's end with one more. Gentleman just in front of you. I'm sure I'm going to regret this, but let's have one more question.
Thank you, Mark. Johannes Knut from Süddeutsche Zeitung. Ms. Coventry, Vladislav Figarskevich said he still didn't fully understand why, on which basis he was disqualified, expressly saying that he doesn't understand what constitutes an expression. If forms of expressions are banned during competition, does it also mean that you can't cheer? Do you behave like a robot? Is the IOC maybe at least looking into trying to precise those? What constitutes an expression on the field of play, which is now banned on the field of play during medal ceremonies and during the opening ceremony? All you seem to say is the rules are pretty unclear at that point, probably. What constitutes an expression?
For me, I think the rules and regulations are very clear, and this is why we have the guidelines, because athletes want to be able to express themselves, and in the same way, athletes want to be safe, and they don't want to be used. The rules are, again, for me, very clear in that standard. We have done the best that we can to ensure that athletes can express themselves and give the messaging that they feel is close to them. Part of why we all love the games is because of our strength and diversity, right? And with that diversity comes the way I express myself as an African woman is very different to how Mark, as a European man, is going to express himself, right? We have to take that all into consideration. And this is where these rules and regulations, I believe, are done in a fair way that allow for that to happen.
I express myself as you tell me to. So. Listen, thank you very much, President. Thank you, Christoph. And we will see you all tomorrow at 11, I think. Thank you.